Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With the latest WWE edition of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, fresh off WWE Saturday night's main event inside Madison Square Garden, on the way to the 2026 edition of WWE SummerSlam in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We are right between those two shows, which means the Silver King and Vintage Chris Vanini are here to break down everything that happened over the last week in the world of WWE. We will discuss everything that happened on Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown that we did not already go over this past Saturday on these Saturday nights main event instant analysis special podcast episode. And we will also look ahead to what WWE is planning for SummerSlam with just 3 television shows remaining to what the company is billing as its second biggest premium live event of the year. We have a ton of show ahead for you, as we always do here at Getting Over. So off the top, allow the Silver King to remind you that the Getting Over Wrestling podcast
is all about Defy.
Please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Go back to being marks for the Silver King, for Vintage, for Getting Over in totality. Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Also, do not forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show, and we will be reading those questions and comments much more in the future. It's just been about a real busy month. We haven't had a lot of time for it. Also, a lot of the questions and comments you guys have been sending in have been topics we've already wanted to cover on the show anyway. So be a little bit more creative with some of your questions and comments, but we will feature them here on the show in the future. On social media, as I mentioned, follow us at Getting Overcast YouTube. You can listen to the show. You can watch full-length video interviews. Hit the link in our profile. You can join our free Slack channel, converse about wrestling all week long with Silver King, Vintage, and the Getting Overhead listeners. You can subscribe to the podcast shop and WWE shop. We get a kickback. No matter what you want to find, you can find it from Getting Over on social media at Getting Overcast. Now, Vintage should be here for nearly the entire show. He is actually at yet another college football media day on Tuesday, which last week when we said he'd be here for the entire episode, he forgot about. So what we're going to do is this. Silver King is going to take you through a quick, and I mean quick, second look at WWE's Saturday night's main event. And then the belief is that Vintage will join us for the remainder of the show. Fingers crossed. So let's get right into that WWE Saturday night's main event. Second look. Overall, this show was even better on rewatch. Yes, the Nick stuff was better on rewatch, but the matches and some of the bookings were as well. The final 2 matches were both fantastic, and this show moved along at such a brisk pace. It was an absolute delight. CM Punk and Cody Rhodes defeated Gunther and Sami Zayn, gave this 4.25 stars A, sticking with it. The big takeaway I had on second watch, there is so much runway for a Punk-Zayn feud coming out of SummerSlam. You can even argue they have a better storyline today than whatever is going to happen with Rhodes over the next 10 days. During the match, there were a couple fun elements of Sami unnecessarily kicking Punk off the ring apron early, and then Punk returning the favor after the 1-2-3. Sami was trying to crawl in the ring. He just puts his foot on his head and pushes him down. And there was such an easy story of Sami calling Punk a hypocrite who is helping the company hold down him the same way Punk used to complain about being held down himself. Zayn can point out that Punk should be getting his back, not stabbing him in it. I'm extremely curious to see where all of that goes after SummerSlam. Bayley and Lyra Valkyria, 3.75 stars. B+, this would have been higher if it didn't start so clunky, but sometimes, shit happens. Didn't realize it live. There's a lot of parallels between Lyra and Becky Lynch, even if this darker character for Valkyria is a huge departure from anything Lynch has ever done. WWE is so cautious with blood these days. This never would have been possible, but getting her nose busted open seconds into this match, it was quite similar to when Becky got punched in the face by Nia Jax on the build to Survivor Series all those years back. Totally different segments and situations, but if WWE had framed it better, handled it differently, this could have been one of those moments that we might have remembered about Lyra. She was still made in the match and the post-match by Bayley. The crossface on the busted nose, the sell on the choke submission, both of those were incredible. But if they used the blood instead of wiping it away immediately, it could have been the cherry on top where you picture her and you say, wow, she is unhinged, she's deranged, like something's wrong with this girl. And I just feel like it was a missed opportunity because WWE is so PG these days. The final segment with Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Jalen Brunson, I stand by everything I said Saturday night, and I feel even stronger about it now, but I'm not going to repeat myself for brevity reasons. Something I did notice on rewatch was that Reigns was legitimately starstruck and nervous lifting the Larry O'Brien trophy, the NBA championship trophy, which was kind of cool because that's unlike him. He's always too cool for school. He has a grimace on his face the entire time. He had a huge smile, those chiclet teeth shining bright. Like, he was really excited and happy to be able to be part of that segment and then raise the trophy at the end. So that was just real cool for me to see from Reigns. Danhausen against JD McDonough, no disqualification, 3 stars, B-. This didn't totally hit me live, like the recognition of what I'm about to say. But Karl Anthony Towns being able to chokeslam wrestlers at a WWE event in Madison Square Garden, it's kind of epic. Like, it's one thing to do it in Long Island or Albany or wherever. There's a limited number of people who can say they did what Kat did Saturday night, especially from a celebrity standpoint. Women's Tag Team Championship, Paige and Brie Bella losing the titles to Fatal Influence. I gave this 2.75 stars C+. I forgot to mention it Saturday, but if you paid attention to Fallon Henley in this match, the way she reacted after getting her mouth busted open, the way she wrestled with those veterans, perhaps you finally understood what I've been talking about for years. JC Jane may be the best pure promo and influence. Henley has the highest ceiling and clears the other two in ring, even though the others are solid wrestlers too. But Henley has a ceiling as WWE champion, and I think JC can be that as well. It may just take Fallon a little longer to get there, apples to apples compared to JC. And then Trick Williams and Laredo Kid, the non-title match on the countdown, 3.25 stars B, no additional notes there. So that is your full second look at Saturday night's main event. I told you it was going to be brief, and there's great news on the other end here because, okay, I am getting the high sign that vintage Chris Vanini has arrived. He is with us for how long? We will find out momentarily. The main event and the good, the bad, and the ugly are both coming up.
But I'm afraid I've got some news.
And Vintage, we do have a few items to hit here before we get into the full breakdown of everything that happened across Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown. First, briefly, CM Punk this past week explained his 3-month absence after WrestleMania. He said it was largely spent mourning the loss of multiple close friends and obviously his dog Larry as well. I hope everyone who started and covered those clearly made up rumors is embarrassed retroactively, but we know they're not. Whole situation around that was absolutely pathetic. Just wanted to say it here. We can move on. WWE announced Saturday and again Monday that it will be utilizing New York as the American home base for WrestleMania 43, which of course is being held in Saudi Arabia next April. WWE has not even announced the weekend dates for WrestleMania, which concerns me as they've found this nice home between the Masters and the NFL draft, but they've only used that weekend, to my recollection, in Las Vegas. And I'm a little worried that they're considering a move back up 1 week, which would be an insanely dumb decision, especially next year, because the show will be airing in the afternoon stateside, which means it would go directly head-to-head with the Masters. But okay, let's put that aside. Fingers crossed it's not going to happen. There is two-pronged news coming out of this announcement. First, the primary item is that a new show called AAA Eternal Glory and the standard NXT Stand and Deliver will not only occur WrestleMania week, but literally on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, at the theater at Madison Square Garden after WrestleMania and presumably the post-shows that follow. Now, look, the theater at Madison Square Garden, A+ venue choice for smaller shows. It can set up for 3,000 to 5,000 people, depending how many seats are sold, and both will look great. The theater has been an awesome host for NXT before, and I can understand running a show after night 1 on Saturday. But not having night 2 of WrestleMania be the final product WWE produces that weekend, to me, is an extremely odd move. Vintage, welcome to this episode. And what is your initial reaction to this booking?
I think it makes sense that they're trying to do something because they know very few people are going to travel to it, and you do it in, your biggest market, New York, so you can give them something. Did they say that includes like watch parties?
I'll get to that. That's the second prong of the announcement I was going to mention.
Yeah. So like it makes sense to do something. I feel like NXT maybe makes more sense, but it's going to be weird having it in the daytime. I'm certainly after night 2 of WrestleMania, I'm going to be wrestled out, but we'll see.
Now, this should also, by the way, be great for independent promotions because they would have been without a home to glom on to WrestleMania. Many have their biggest shows and conventions of the year at WrestleMania week. They take advantage of a lot of wrestling fans going into a major city or town. Now they can run events in and around the New York area, kind of piggyback off the AAA and NXT show. It's not going to be as heavy, but when you get into a market like New York, there's so many people there, so many wrestling fans, they should be fine. Ultimately, that is going to be a huge positive. The second part,
that right there, that is probably the biggest positive.
Yeah, and it's not for WWE.
Yeah, by just saying there's a home base US, it will allow WrestleCon and all these other things, these outside WWE ancillary events that rely on the business of WrestleMania weekend, to do it there that weekend. So that is a positive.
Which I'm sure is not what's motivating WWE, but it certainly is nice. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
The second part of this announcement is that WWE, as you alluded to, will be holding WrestleMania watch parties in that same venue, the Madison Square Garden Theater, preceding those shows. The idea being that fans can watch WrestleMania in the theater arena on a huge screen, take a break, and then watch live wrestling for AAA and NXT to conclude the night. Now, that is a long day to be out of the house in New York. It's a long day to be out of the house anywhere, but especially in New York. And it's going to be curious to see how the ticketing works, but I could see it being a really fun experience in New York. WWE will also be hosting other watch parties across the country. I'm sure they will be a hit in certain locations like this Cosm thing in Dallas. By the way, have you done that?
I have not, because many of the times I could, it's either way too expensive or I'm either covering the event or I need to do this podcast. So I'm here for it. But I've not done Cosm yet. I think it's in like LA. There's like 2 or 3 of them around there. Looks nice, but have not done it. I still
What is the pricing like? I mean, I know you don't know like specifically, but when you've looked at the prices before.
So the US soccer game, we looked and it was like a couple $100.
Wow.
And I was like, ugh. So
yeah, because you can still get it on 4K at home. So I mean, I know it's immersive, but still, that's expensive.
Yeah.
Anyway, I feel like this is a slight overestimation of WWE's popularity. If they're going to have like a half dozen of these or more, not that affects our viewing experience, but I don't know how many of those will work. I bet you the Cosms work in Dallas and LA. If those are the 2 locations, sure.
They do those already for WWE pay-per-view.
Right. So I just don't know like if they're going to be doing just regular theaters or different venues across the country. I don't know if they did something in Detroit or Kansas City, if like that's going to play, but it seems like they're trying to do something different to satisfy American fans who will not be able to go to WrestleMania. And I kind of tip my cap to them for realizing they need to do something despite the booking and location of the show.
Yeah, it might be. It's good. The whole thing's going to feel awkward.
It is.
I know they've done a lot of Saudi shows before, but like
not
the biggest show,
yeah. Saudi
Saudi Arabia, the first time for a lot of people that they won't go to a WrestleMania. A lot of WrestleMania streaks are going to end. It's going to be weird, and is what it is.
Yeah, look, I didn't give it that nickname for no reason. Let's just put it that way. WWE was heavily involved with Fanatics Fest last week, and look, I truly do not have much desire to go over everything that happened there, but it does seem like Fanatics is using WWE almost as its marketing and promotional arm for the show. Somehow everything and everyone there gets integrated with WWE, which is not the case for the other sports represented at the show. Anyway, there were 2 standout elements. First was a video we posted on social media of Cody Rhodes trying to kick field goals. This was utterly shocking. I know he often shows off his lack of athleticism, like doing the Cody cutter and the disaster kick and stuff, but I'm legitimately starting to wonder, like, can Cody throw a baseball? This guy looked like he didn't even know how to walk while he was approaching the ball that was teed up for him. And no one took him aside and bothered to say, hey, Code Man, you got to swing through the ball. It's not like it's soccer. You got to swing through like you're swinging a bat trying to hit a baseball. I'm mostly making fun of him, Vintage, but I'm hoping you saw this video. It was bad, man.
Yes, I did see it. It looked like he was like drunk and didn't know how to walk. Like, that's the weirdest part. It's not like he like walked up and did an awkward kick. His walk up to the ball looks like he doesn't know what he's doing. I can't tell because the camera's far away if his shoes are very red and they look big. I don't know if he's wearing giant shoes.
They look like clown shoes. They do, yeah.
Yeah, that they're difficult to walk in or something. Like, look, kicking a field goal can be very hard if you've never done it before. I think throwing a ball is much easier.
Sure.
Everybody's done that.
Sure.
But yes, it was a shockingly strange attempt.
I am not saying I'm going out there and hitting a 40-yard field goal. Roman Reigns did, by the way. So credit to Reigns. I'm sure he's kicked many times, messing around in practice on football fields in high school and college. I'm not saying I could go out and kick a 40-yard field goal. What I am telling you is I'm getting that ball in the air. And I'm getting it, at least 20 to 30 yards down the field. He was kicking dribblers, man. You got to see this on our account at Getting Overcast. If you missed it, just make sure you check it out so you can laugh along with Vintage and the Silver King. But something else that happened in New York was nowhere near as funny. In fact, I would call it extraordinarily strange. It is this worked beef between Logan Paul and Tom Brady, which continued at this Fanatics Fest. It started as an attempt to market some real contrived flag football game that was supposed to take place in the Middle East. I forget if it was Saudi or Qatar or somewhere else, Abu Dhabi, wherever it was supposed to be. It got moved stateside because of the Iran war, which of course shouldn't even be happening. But it continued this week for some reason and became even more wrestling work style, with Brady smacking Paul in the side of the head. They were also both at the World Cup sitting near each other, and they gave each other the finger. And I'm just sitting here scratching my head. Why is this happening? And who the hell is this supposed to attract? Brady owns a part of the Las Vegas Raiders. So if this was happening ahead of WrestleMania 42, and he was going to have a wrestler represent him in a match against Logan, or he was going to pop out of the crowd to help a wrestler against Logan, okay, I could totally see doing this. But unless they are planning to do a show in Boston and book something similar, the general NFL and WWE audiences are not going to give a flying F about this. NFL players have been involved with WWE forever. Refrigerator Perry, Lawrence Taylor, Rob Gronkowski, more recently Jason Kelsey. Those all worked because they felt natural one way or another. This is incredibly contrived, fake, try-hard, ham-fisted. It's not appealing at all. Also, why the hell is Brady even doing this? The guy is richer than shit. He's insanely well-known. He's dating a woman half his age. He had a long NFL career. He owns part of an NFL team. He gets paid $40 million a year to work less than 1/3 of the year for Fox calling NFL games. It's almost like this is a midlife crisis or something for him. Whatever is happening here just sucks. And Vintage, I know you got to take on this too.
This is the most juiceless thing I've ever seen. Like, there is not a single person out there, I think, that actually likes this. There was also the clip from Fanatics Fest of Brady coming out in a coffin and them showing the 28-3 Falcons Patriots score.
I didn't mind
that.
I will admit, I didn't mind that.
But he looked so stiff,
yes,
and corny, and nobody reacted to it. None of this stuff that he's doing is drawing any reaction because he looks stiff. He doesn't look like he's having any fun at all.
No.
Nobody wants this. Even the biggest Patriots fans don't want this. It's crazy how they're like trying to build this thing and it's being universally crapped on by everybody. I don't think they can or will go through with this because I think they know everybody hates it. It will get booed. It will not go well. Nobody wants this. It's like what you said. It feels like, among many things Tom Brady's doing, part of a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
He got divorced from Giselle because he wanted to keep playing football.
For 1 year, by the way.
for one extra year. And ever since then, he's just doing all this weird stuff. He's part of crypto scams. He's selling drinks with like the word nut to make a joke out of it. He does the Netflix roast that was weird. Like all of this stuff is just like, dude, you're Tom Brady. What are you doing, man? And so I wanted to make sure we talked about this just because after the weekend and the clips we saw, there's zero juice to this. And you said it. Celebrities have been a part of. By the way, I had gotten asked to do an interview about this for Good Morning America, and they had to cancel last second.
Wait, hold on. They were going to have you on Good Morning America to talk about this?
Some pre-taped interview, yeah. Like I got on the Zoom and was about to do it, and then they canceled it last minute.
They clearly must have fired that producer trying to bring you on that show. I mean,
because I was prepared to say a lot of the stuff on there, and so but celebrities have always been a part of pro wrestling.
Yeah.
You know, like Muhammad Ali, and look at Lil Yachty, look at Bad Bunny, look at Jelly Roll. Even if people think it's too much of him, these are celebrities who like wrestling. And because they like it and respect it, they are adding to the product. Everything Tom Brady has said about this has been crapping on WWE and calling it soft and all these kinds of things. He doesn't like this. He doesn't want to do it. It's just baffling how just bad this is, how forced this is. And again, no juice.
He started by shitting on it because he was building the flag football thing with Logan and Logan was doing wrestling. But then at Fanatics Fest, he's like, I definitely need to have one WWE match. So he completely turned on the concept of what he was doing. If Logan, not that I'm suggesting this should be the angle or anything, if he was standing up for WWE in some way and Brady was going to go on the heel side and call it shitty and do all that stuff, at least there would be some meat on the bone there. But again, no one wants this. This is an all-time legacy-ruining run that Brady is on right now. And it's not just this. It's everything that you mentioned in succession. Why is he accepting foreign money to put on a bullshit flag football game that, again, didn't even actually happen where it was supposed to happen? Why is he selling crypto and doing all this weird shit? And this is something else you said. You can criticize Logan. You can criticize Karl Anthony Towns or Jelly Roll or Pat McAfee or whomever. Those guys show up motivated and excited to do this stuff. Brady is standing across from Logan, acting like he's Derek Zoolander with a blue steel face, no emotion. And you're supposed to think what? Like this guy's he can't even sell it. He's angry at the guy.
Right.
It's horrible, bro. Like it's
everything about Brady for a while now has been just fake. Like so incredibly fake. Every once in a while he'll get into something on football, like talking about how you hold the ball in the wind, and you're like, oh, there's the real Tom Brady. Like there's the interesting guy.
Yeah, there's the Hall of Famer talking about football. That's what you should be doing, bro. That's it.
But like 99% of it is just, it feels very fake and forced.
I got to be honest. I never thought I would talk about Tom Brady on this show, let alone this long. Talk about like one of
hopefully the
athletes I dislike the most historically, mostly because I'm a Miami Dolphins fan, but also for plenty of other reasons too. Deflategate and you know, I could go on forever. I can't believe we dedicated this much time to him, and fingers crossed this is the end of it and nothing actually happens, because I don't know how we could discuss him on this show and like just not shit all over it even more than we already just did.
Yep.
As far as WWE TV this week, getting into the meat of this show, SmackDown in Albany was like relatively okay outside of the booking of the women's division, which we will be discussing shortly. It was nice to have an episode of TV on Friday without any Bloodline involvement. It's the first time in a while that's actually happened. Raw on Monday, the crowd was better. It was in Detroit, Michigan. Loaded show in terms of crowd, fans in attendance. I mean, I guess you could say the program as a whole was better than SmackDown because there was nothing individually that made me mad. But for a big crowd in Detroit, another major city, it was a completely mailed-in episode. Nothing happened. A mid-card match was booked for SummerSlam. We're less than 2 weeks out. They only had, I think, 7 or 8 matches announced before Raw, and you're announcing one mid-card match on a huge show coming out of Saturday night's main event. I can't make sense of that at all. We discussed Saturday how CM Punk and Cody Rhodes could really use a Raw segment to heat up their feud. Not only were they not in attendance, neither was Reigns. As much as Saturday night's main event may have hit, Raw was a huge miss on Monday night. It was a skip-ahead show, and you know what? It made it easier for you and I to get through this episode relatively quick.
Yeah, Raw was a joke, man. Like, nothing of importance happened. You barely had anything about your biggest feuds. We're 2 weeks away from SummerSlam.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know some of that went into the SummerSlam kickoff thing on Sunday. And you also had a Saturday night's main event. So, like, stuff happened over the weekend.
For sure.
But, again, you're 2 weeks out. There was nothing here. It was a filler show. I couldn't believe how bad it was. There was not a single... I think you're going to get into this later.
Yeah.
It's not a single second of women's wrestling, like a match, on the show. It was short, like barely over 2 hours as well. Ended early.
Yeah, I think it was like 2:15, maybe something like that.
Yeah, just
real
a
short.
shockingly empty episode.
It was more noticeable what was not on the episode than what was on the episode. They had the same people in like 4 different segments, and they were not main eventers.
Joe Hendry got
Danhausen.
several segments on the
I think
show.
Danhausen got 4 segments on the show, which we like Danhausen. It's fine, but like not for 4 segments on a second to last penultimate Raw before SummerSlam.
And I don't think they mentioned that Detroit's his hometown either, despite all that.
I don't know.
Oh, well.
I don't know if they did. Yeah, that might have been a miss, but regardless, look, we have a lot more to talk about on this episode. Before we get to it, I do want to note that Vintage and I will do our absolute best to provide a review of season 3 of WWE Unreal on Thursday's episode. It would be the opening segment of the show. This is completely to be determined based on our schedules, the depth of the episodes, how many notes we need to take, how long we believe the discussion is going to go. But we wanted to give you all a 48-hour period at least to try to watch Unreal before we review it. We will do our best to have all of that on Thursday. But again, that is TBD. And considering next week is WWE SummerSlam, of course, the Tuesday episode is going to be your WWE SummerSlam Ultimate Preview. Maybe if we don't get to it this Thursday, we would cover WWE Unreal next Thursday, but that's up in the air. Just letting you know, we didn't forget about it. We will be discussing it right here on the podcast. And because that show is on Netflix, it does provide a great opportunity for a transition, as Silver King does need to remind you, whether it is Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, or premium live events on Netflix, Getting Over is all in with NordVPN. It's easy to set up a drastically better viewing experience each night with the same high-quality streams, except they become commercial-free shows. All you have to do is sign up at nordvpn.com/gettingover, open the app, quick connect to another country like the United Kingdom, open Netflix, and watch the program of your choice. This, by the way, works for other apps too. But that's not all you get with NordVPN, because it is an all-in-one digital security solution that blocks threats before they reach your device, not after. You get protected against malware, dangerous websites, and ads, and one account can be used for 10 different devices. Best of all, there's no risk. NordVPN has the 30-day money-back guarantee. To get the best discount, go to nordvpn.com/gettingover. Our link will give you 4 extra free months off the 2-year plan. So improve your WWE viewing, save money, and receive an all-in-one security solution while getting the best discount for the best VPN at nordvpn.com/gettingover. All right, Vintage, it is time to break down everything that happened across Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown this week that we did not already cover in the WWE Saturday Night's Main Event Instant Analysis. And we're going to do it right now, as we always do, by sliding into the main event.
This is the main event.
So WWE started developing actual heat for the SummerSlam Night 1 main event of CM Punk versus Cody Rhodes everywhere but a wrestling ring this weekend, stemming from the strap of the WWE Championship accidentally grazing Rhodes' head after the final match at Saturday Night's Main Event. WWE posted on social media a backstage confrontation between Punk and Rhodes that led to shoving and separation. The whole time, Cody yelled at the camera to not film the interaction, saying it was not made for content. As such, WWE actually deleted the clip across social media. The idea being that in work shoot fashion, Punk and Rhodes were angry, their private moment was publicized. I thought that was a pretty cool twist. If you all missed it, we posted the full audio on the Saturday Night's Main Event Instant Analysis, so you can go listen to it and hear our live reaction to that segment. The reason we're bringing it up again is because it was referenced as heat ratcheted up to another level between them on Sunday during the SummerSlam kickoff press conference. Let's go ahead and play that clip as well, so we're all on the same page in terms of what we're talking about.
Let me make this clear. I'm embarrassed about it. You know I'm embarrassed about it. But I am not apologizing for it. And I'm a little done with this brother thing because you're not my brother.
Okay, you're still mad about it. That's your ego talking. And I understand. No, listen, I understand. If you want to do it in public, we can do it in public. He's paranoid, okay? John Cena stabbed him in the back. Randy Orton stabbed him in the back. You're paranoid it's going to happen again and again. You want the title, you got a title shot. We'll find out who the best is at SummerSlam. But I'm not going to stab you in the back. I am not John Cena. I am not Randy Orton. This is your ego speaking.
Okay. Guess what? Newsflash. I'm wearing purple pants. Clearly I have an ego. It's transparent. I learned later than you. I don't know it all like you do, right? So I do have an ego. But there's so much that's unsaid between you and I. It is very hard to be your friend sometime because don't talk to me about ego. Last night, your mask slipped. That wasn't an accident. So I don't want to hear any of this ego.
I told you, I'll tell publicly to everybody, I'll tell you again. Last night was an accident, and I apologize. This is on purpose.
You mashed him in the face.
That's on purpose, little brother.
So yes, no doubt, the intensity is ratcheting up. On the other hand, that all happened less than 2 weeks before SummerSlam, and what stood out to me most in that confrontation was Cody's line. There is so much between us left unsaid. Well, what the hell are you waiting for, man? Say it. That's precisely the issue with the build here. There's barely any time to say what they need to say in order to enhance the main event match properly. That's less of an issue with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins because their feud has been either front and center or bubbling behind the scenes for years now. Punk Rhodes is a huge feud, but it's also relatively fresh. And it now feels rushed, which is precisely why delaying it and rolling with the four-way may have been the better option. Beyond that, it's kind of silly that the true angst between them kicked into gear over a belt strap grazing Cody's head and Rhodes being unable to accept that it was an accident, despite Punk telling him 5 times it was an accident. He didn't mean it, and he's sorry. Now, I'm not sitting here trying to downplay the quality of these two segments from Saturday and Sunday. Both of them worked. They legitimately upped the intensity, far more than anything that had happened previously. If there was a month left until SummerSlam, or even 3 weeks, I'd be universally praising it as a great way to kick off the feud. The whole big brother, little brother aspect, Punk mashing Rhodes in the face with his hand, the hype in the backstage segment from Saturday, including Trick Williams in that, Punk recalling how other guys Rhodes trusted turned on him and he will not, and then the little brothering on stage between a couple guys who are clearly trying to out-alpha one another. All of that works incredibly well. It's just, as I said, Vintage, there's a super short runway to go home with it, and it's for that reason I truly hope this is the kickoff of a long-term feud with breaks in between, not just we're doing this match and it's going to be one and done at SummerSlam.
This was okay. I thought both guys did a good job upping the intensity. The fans were into it. It's fresh because we haven't seen these two guys feud before. It's also just not a story. And maybe the little brother thing is it. We need these guys face to face, promo about their history together, about the photo they took back in 2012 or whatever it was when they were supposed to be the new generation of stars. And instead Punk left and Cody quit and they all went their own separate ways. But also Punk was always there and helpful to Cody sometimes.
Right.
And there is a history to get into and we haven't gotten into it yet. I'm praying that on Friday night SmackDown, we get that. Have them tell their story to each other and have Cody say, ever since I got that first taste of the championship, I'm addicted to it. I have to have that belt. I I feel wrong when I don't have it, especially when I see my friend have it. It makes me just want to go crazy and do things. Like there are pieces of a story that can be told. What didn't happen in the short segment. I really, really hope they get to it and not just Cody has an ego and Cody says, "Yeah, I've got an ego." No, like dig into that more. Take me to therapy. Let's get into that.
That's the thing. If this was happening at WrestleMania as planned, whomever became number one contender, whether they won at Royal Rumble or whether they won at Elimination Chamber, they would have had so much runway. And these are not part-timers. Cody and Punk are on TV every single week, right? They're not Roman Reigns in this situation. So you would have had all that runway to tell their story and do this angle also where it's, hey, man, I'm going to challenge you and we're going to see who the best will win. Okay, cool. We're friends still. And then something like this happens and something instigates the feud, bubbling up to the surface, and then they tell their story. But now that they're doing it in such a truncated timetable, it kind of just feels like we're getting gypped a little bit. Like, this should be so meaty and so deep and so involved. And look, WWE historically is not a company that gives you a one-shot deal for a feud. They did it with Randy Orton at WrestleMania. There's rumors Orton is legitimately injured and it was supposed to continue after and it didn't. But we know WWE loves to do trilogies or 4-match series and have things go on for month after month after month. And as you and I say all the time, Cody is so much better in Chase than he is as champion. It's fine when he wins the championship, but his reigns these days especially should not be long. Like, he's so much better in this role, and you heard it in that segment right there. But they just cannot, I don't see, even if Friday is a knockdown, drag-out, incredible promo segment, and then they come back 24 hours before SummerSlam, and they start doing it again, and it erupts into a pull-apart brawl. Those could both be A-plus segments of the year. And I still don't know that they're going to have enough time to go to the depth that they need to go to in order to build this into the match it should be, that we all know it can be from a storyline standpoint.
Agree. So we'll see. I like, you got to give us one like really home run thing here. You don't even have to, if you're going to do multiple matches, okay, you don't have to do the whole thing now, but like you gotta start with the deep feelings. Sometimes
not
they
a
like
home run.
save that.
Not a home run. They need a grand slam or a 3-run shot. I mean, they got to do something huge on Friday.
Yeah, if this is your main event of, could be night 2, probably night 1, night 1 or night 2.
Definitely night 1.
Yeah, you got to do it.
All right, the other match that was made official on Sunday was Gunther against Nick Aldis that happened as well at the SummerSlam kickoff. Gunther came out complaining to Paul Levesque about getting screwed over time and again. Fair enough. Aldis interrupted, not having any of it. Gunther went at him, and Levesque got both to agree to the fight. You don't need to go back and watch this. If you missed it, we're not going to play the audio. This was obviously the match expectation, and it's fair to say that fans are quite excited for it. The response for Aldis fighting on Sunday was incredible. It's been built incredibly well. I would not be surprised if a retirement or career type of stipulation gets added, whether it's this Friday or next Friday. Really, all WWE needs to do on the go home is create an extended video package of Aldis as a wrestler, because his entire career basically was spent in TNA. They should have easy access to that footage, not going to that level of depth to say, hey, this is what this guy can do when wrestling. By the way, he was a former NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. By the way, he was Magnus in TNA and he did all this awesome shit. I say awesome, just comparatively.
He was good.
Yeah, he was good. He was really, really solid. And by the way,
also,
there's a TNA Fast channel on Fubo, and I guess they have it other places too. Every once in a while, when I can't find anything else to watch, I'll throw it on, and a Magnus match will pop on, and I'm like, you know what? Pretty effing good.
Also, for people who don't know, he's married to Mickie James.
He is, indeed.
And they've been married for like a decade or something like that. So like that's a part you could bring in if you want to. He fought Cody at All In, the very first All In back in the day. I think how old is he?
39 years old. He's younger than all 4 main eventers at SummerSlam.
Yes. He's 1 year older than Gunther, but younger than Cody and not Cody. Maybe Cody.
He's younger than Cody, Punk, Reigns, and Rollins.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cody's a young, like 40 or whatever he is. But yeah, no, I'm excited for this. It happened. We knew it would. Do I think Gunther should be doing something more meaningful? Yes, absolutely. But there's a way you can tie this into career killer. And lean into that again, which they need to.
Yeah, Rollins is 40, Cody's 41, just to be clear. The larger conversation,
wow.
The larger conversation around the match, though, is what you just said. It's the base level fact that Gunther is fighting a general manager on the second biggest show of the year after not having a solid feud for WrestleMania, though that was circumstantial. But all coming off of retiring 3 legends in the months prior. Now, some people are freaking out about this as WWE not capitalizing on the John Cena retirement, and that is completely fair. You and I have said as much on this show. At the same time, outside of winning a world championship or retiring more people, there's only so much you can do with someone after that. So I agree they have not capitalized as well as we believed they should. He probably should have won the title almost immediately after Cena, and then it would have been okay if he lost it subsequently somehow. Or he should have won it after AJ Styles, same thing. But again, then it was the road to WrestleMania. He was not booked in those 2 main event plans, so what the hell do you do with him? Considering WWE moved the WrestleMania main events to SummerSlam, I think Gunther was just a victim of circumstance. He got stuck in this in-between zone, and now hopefully coming out of SummerSlam, there will be strings to pull where he can actually get something substantial.
Yes. I mean, he's still in a big spot. Like the company obviously cares about him.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very big part of what they're doing, but it feels like they did not capitalize on the retirement of Cena and the retirement of AJ. I don't think Gunther's any bigger of a deal than he was, and that's the problem.
He was the 2 weeks after Cena. That has gone away. Agreed.
Yes.
We'll move over to the primary storyline from Monday Night Raw now. WWE continued airing the brief videos for the Roman Reigns-Seth Rollins feud. Michael Cole had the balls to describe the packages as epic in their scope. 5 chapters have aired to this point. It's lasted less than 3 total minutes. The 5th part, the reformation of the Shield, it showed Dean Ambrose in full. But while Reigns said it never should have happened, them reforming, no one explained why. The whole video just ended. This whole effort is just an absolute joke. It is fine as a refresher for guys like us who've been watching for decades, and we see these clips and our memories get jogged by them, and we're piecing together, oh yeah, that happened and then that happened. But there is a huge swath of this modern fan base that doesn't know this stuff. They need more. They have to understand why these guys are fighting. And that's why I'm critiquing it. It is so low effort. And like I said last week, if you were giving us these short clips and saying this full documentary, it's a 90-minute documentary on the Shield and Rollins and Reigns and their feud, it's on YouTube for free. Here's a QR code. Go watch it. I would not have a single problem with it because you don't need to fill up go-home shows with 4 or 5-minute packages at a time. But they're not doing that at all. They're basically saying, oh yeah, see these video images? This is them 12 years ago. That's it. They're not even telling you what happened. It's unbelievable.
Shockingly how little effort there is. They didn't tell you why the Shield reunited.
Right.
I don't remember. It was, 2018, 19-ish, around WrestleMania 35? Like they showed pictures of Roman when he was like coming out of the chemo thing, what he was wearing at the time. But
right.
I don't know why they were there. Did we need to talk about the other one?
No, I was just kind of grouping it all together, saying these were nothing.
Yeah, so
nothing happened.
So in it, Seth says it was great to win the title, if only for a moment. And then they don't explain what that means.
Right.
What it means is Dean Ambrose cashed in on him that night, and all 3 Shield members held the belt. That was famously the night that the Golden State Warriors, or that the Cavaliers beat the Warriors, and the WWE and the Cavs like partied together in Vegas that night because that's where Money in the Bank was. But why say that line if you're not going to explain it?
And
that
part,
same thing with the Shield reunion.
That part, not showing Ambrose beating Rollins, okay, I understand why they didn't want to do that.
That's fine, but just don't even allude to it.
The point is, it's 5 parts. Okay, it's lasted less than 3 minutes. Paul Heyman on Monday night had a 3-minute, 7-second promo for Hell in a Cell. Paul Heyman, individually in a taped video package, got more time on Raw to build a non-main event than these guys across 5 packages on 2 nights got to build the main event of night 2, the feud and the match we've been waiting to see for years, whether it's one final time or just one huge moment between them, because it hasn't happened, but they've been playing with each other for all of these years. I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't get it.
I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't get it.
Solo Sikoa interrupted the Raw broadcast out of the crowd before the end of hour 1, surprising everyone by calling Seth Rollins down to the ring. He understandably wondered whether they were talking or fighting. Solo confirmed it was the former, telling Seth what he probably already knew. The Bloodline will have his back at SummerSlam. They'll have Reigns back at SummerSlam, and Rollins will need assistance. Fans chanted OTC before Rollins gave credence to Sikoa's words, saying he was willing to think about it. Solo prevented him from leaving, saying he wanted to play the same role for Seth that he did for Cody at WrestleMania 40. Jacob Fatu interrupted in street clothes. Sikoa fled the scene. Rollins stood 10 toes down and then super kicked his head off before walking out. Rollins later confronted Fatu backstage, laughing at him because he knew Jacob is under a no-touch order from Reigns. Seth wondered whether Jacob would work for him after he beats Roman, but Fatu said he beat Rollins' ass if there was anything left after SummerSlam. Something about this first segment did not sit right with me. Why does Rollins, one of the kayfabe smartest guys in the locker room, who's always 3 steps ahead of everyone else, why does he need Sikoa to tell him how his greatest rival, whom he thwarted at WrestleMania 40 for Cody Rhodes, as was mentioned, how he's going to operate? Beyond that, it sure seemed like WWE gave away maybe Fatu's going to interfere in SummerSlam as retaliation for this, Rollins bringing it on himself. I'm not going to put the cart fully ahead of the horse and automatically assume the worst, but I struggled to understand why this segment was necessary and what benefit it provided. Maybe we'll find out over the next few shows, but this was a bunch of nothing to me, and I will assume that it will end up being absolutely meaningless, which was kind of a microcosm of this entire episode of Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, extremely random. I did appreciate Solo saying he's not supposed to be on this show. That felt like an acknowledgement to the things you like to point out fairly. It was just random, didn't make any sense, and we'll get to it, but I'm glad LA Knight pointed that out. This didn't make any sense. Also, Seth was wearing what looked like a dark maroon jacket over a black suit and black tie. Colors didn't quite fit.
Oh, really? I thought it was all
weird.
Black. Oh, interesting.
So did I, but then when they were like closer together, it looked maroonish. I don't know. Anyway, weird segment.
Yeah, really weird. So Knight comes out, cuts a promo before his scheduled match, wondering why Sikoa was offering Rollins help. He said he was wutting the segment backstage, just like the crowd was in the ring, because their match happening at SummerSlam makes him sick. Fans chanted OTC again. I swear, this is a sickness with these fans. Knight said he didn't blame the fans for chanting because Reigns has conned them. LA said he's everything Roman and the WWE machine wanted Reigns to be, and he has been that since he joined the company. He told Solo that he focused on the wrong thing, calling Seth a cross-eyed halfwit, saying if they take care of the bloodline first, then Rollins won't have to worry about anything. It was hardly his best promo. It was hardly his worst promo. He lost the crowd for a bit. He got them back in the end. The fans continuing to cheer Reigns, Fatu, and the bloodline. It's really throwing a wrench in the booking concepts here. And Knight calling out Sikoa's promo with Rollins earlier, it was like he was speaking for us on TV. So I'm glad he did that, because the opening segment was legitimately odd, but this promo wasn't that much better. It just felt like unnecessary time filler.
I thought it was fine. Got the energy up, and he said kind of what we were all saying. You know, the second part of it, Fatu, all that stuff, whatever. It made sense for his character, but it's not something he should have had to do.
Right.
He had to do it because they had to basically explain what the previous segment was.
So we had Knight and Fatu as the main event match. LA ran Jacob into and over the steel steps, but got caught jumping off them for a Samoan drop into the ring apron. The referee simply decided not to count as they fought ringside for a good 30 seconds. Fatu dominated for a while, completely overwhelming Knight physically. He did a nice springing elbow drop with LA draped over the top turnbuckle. After Knight hit a box jump superplex, almost slipped. Jimmy Uso came down to cheer on his guy and distract, so Solo snuck up from behind him in the timekeeper's area to thwart the effort. Fatu prevented Samoan Spike with a tope suicida, but Knight avoided a pop-up Samoan drop and hit BFT. Us distracted the referee to prevent the count. That led Royce Keys out from the crowd to chuck Jimmy over the announce table. Jay then returned, first time in like 3 weeks, out of the crowd, got a huge pop. He dumped Royce over the barricade. LA took him out with a slide through the ropes. Fatu, of course, took advantage, hitting a pop-up Samoan drop and the mighty moonsault for the win. But Sikoa attacked him immediately after the bell. The Usos then took out Solo before Royce ran them down with a double clothesline. Then he got into a meaty brawl with Jacob. Keys actually won that. He hit his boy with the spine buster, but then he turned around and took 1D, which Michael Cole called 3D. as Fatu held Knight down with the Tongan death grip, the Bloodline destroying him 3-on-1 and finally getting some legitimate heat from the crowd to end the show as the babyfaces were laid out writhing on the ground. As usual, a faction of fans are going to be pissed about Knight losing, but for me, Fatu getting the fall is okay, particularly given the interference. Jimmy beating these guys, that was an issue. Jacob beating them is not an issue. The guy was main eventing PLEs a couple months ago. Apples and oranges as far as I'm concerned. The match served as a strong main event. The six-way brawling was super hot for the crowd, and the heat from the fans for the Bloodline, even when they held up the ones, I guess that was the purpose of doing this because, as was referenced to this point, they had been cheered the entire episode. It did solidify my opinion that the earlier segment with Rollins and Sikoa was rather worthless, although again, we're going to have to see what happens when SummerSlam rolls around.
Yeah, I mean, this felt like a Raw main event from a few months ago where they were always ending with the Usos running out and just throwing it into a mayhem.
Mm-hmm.
It was fine. If it did accomplish the goal of getting the Bloodline booed a bit more, sure, but the next time Roman comes out, he's getting cheered. So, this felt like a house show match instead of a main event of SummerSlam going into. It feels like they're building to War Games. It just so feels like that's what they're doing, but they're not because it's not till November. So it's just a weird, convoluted situation they've got going on here.
Indeed it is. Well, that wraps up Monday Night Raw. I mean, that was the main storyline. Actually, that's not even true. That's not the main storyline from the show, but it was the main event storyline from the show. Let's move over to SmackDown, where WWE announced Friday before the show that due to Rhea Ripley's torn meniscus, a 5-way ladder match for the interim WWE Women's Championship would be held at SummerSlam, with the winner facing Ripley at an undisclosed time to become undisputed champion. And they would name the time and date and all that upon her return. This is the first interim championship that WWE will award in 6 years. It's a rarity for the company to not have an injured champion vacate the title when faced with a circumstance like this. I've always been an advocate of the interim champion concept whenever a title holder is dealing with a relative short-term injury, something that lasts 2 to 4 months. It creates an immediate opportunity for interesting creative and a huge match once that reigning champion returns. Where interim champions become problematic is when the reigning title holder is out 5 to 9 months. By that point, the new champion has too much time to establish themselves, and the person who returns is wholly undeserving of still holding the title. Enhancing the need for an interim champion at this juncture was SummerSlam being mere weeks away. That's too significant of a show to not have the title involved, and throwing a ladder match on the card enhances the product being offered to fans. I understand WWE initially hoping Ripley could heal up and get cleared without surgical intervention, but once it became clear that she would not be ready in time, as far as I'm concerned, Vintage, this was by far the best move they could have made.
Yes, I'm like you. I have long been in favor of interim champions as well, as long as it's somebody who's not out, 6 to 8 months and all that kind of stuff. Because there can be a natural story of, I lost the belt that you never took from me and blah, blah, blah. But in these cases, it's good to do them. If you don't think Rhea's out too long, do this. Hopefully this sets a precedent that more of this can happen, because then you can set up the interesting angle of someone's the champion, but people don't think they're the real champion, and have fun with that. So tough situation. Rhea is clearly injury prone, but ladder match should be good.
All 4 women involved in the first 2 qualifiers on Friday got the opportunity to cut taped locker room promos when they ended. I both hoped and assumed the winners would be JC Jane and Nia Jax, considering there appeared to be a clear Charlotte Flair, Jade Cargill non-title match scheduled for SummerSlam, and Tiffany Stratton, of course, is already a champion. They were all solid, the promos. They did not come across as too short. Each was able to get their point across. My additional hope was that we would get 4 qualifiers over 2 weeks involving 8 women, and then maybe a last chance qualifier involving the 4 losers on the go-home show, or we would get 4 qualifiers and then we would get a match involving a bunch of women, like a battle royal or something, for the last opportunity. So that's just where my mind was going into these matches. The first was Stratton against Jane. Fatal Influence attacked Stratton before the bell, with the tag team champion saving to clear the ring and even the sides. At this time, of course, the tag team champions were Brie Bella and Paige. They lost the titles to Fatal Influence on Saturday. Tiffy hit her cartwheel Alabama slam relatively late in the match. Jane answered with a draping, twisting neckbreaker hanging off the top rope. Stratton then avoided rolling encore, hitting the prettiest moonsault ever to advance. Match was fine but unspectacular. Stratton was entirely the wrong winner. I did not mind her involvement as a former champion. She has another title. And with Influence, there was an easy enough way to excuse a loss with the numbers game. Jane not only deserved to qualify, it would have made far more sense for her to qualify because she was feuding with Ripley before her injury, and it could have been a breakout opportunity for her. Instead, Tiffy is not going to be defending her title at SummerSlam, and I cannot imagine she will win the ladder match and become a double champion. So it's both a wasted qualifier and a wasted opportunity to elevate someone else. It does get a bigger name in the match, but even if you want Tiffy in, JC should be in as well. Tiffy could have beaten Kiana James or someone like that. I still, to this day, struggle to understand why WWE didn't pivot and roll with Influence when they got so much damn heat upon debuting. There's simply no good reason, Vintage, that JC is not going to be in this match.
No, none at all. And the point for Tiffy will be, she's from Minnesota. Get her on the show.
Mm-hmm.
That makes all the sense in the world, okay. But she's the U.S. champion.
Yeah, she had a spot.
And I am so tired of active champions being involved in tournaments for other championships. It's the laziest thing you can do with a roster that is so incredibly deep. We just went through this with Liv Morgan going all the way to the final of Queen of the Ring.
Mm-hmm.
It's a failure of creative if you are having somebody attempt to get a double championship. And this has been happening. By the way, this is not the only time on this episode of SmackDown where somebody talked about becoming a double champion. It's like there's the belts, the nothingness with some of these stories. JC Jane should be in this match, man. Like, this is a big moment for her, especially as you've changed tag team titles at Saturday Night's Main Event the next day after this. Like, just baffling.
Now, if you think that was bad, let's move over to the other qualifier. We had Cargill against Jax. This was the worst booked match and segment anywhere in wrestling this year, from the setup to the concept to the execution. The baddies are out with Jade. Lash legend, Nia's partner, is nowhere to be found despite being in the arena because we saw her later backstage. Nonsense. Jax missed a second rope leg drop seconds after the bell, and then Charlotte Flair shows up, immediately taking out the baddies ringside. Watching live, I figured, okay, they're going to do this like the prior match to ensure Cargill does not have an advantage.
No.
Presumably seeing red from the Alexa Bliss attack, Charlotte then flies into the ring, boots Jade's head off, and gives Cargill the win via disqualification in 1 minute.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Then she wraps a chair around her arm, attempting to get revenge on Bliss. The baddies save, and Jade, of course, is announced as the winner. So then Nia, the aggrieved party who did nothing wrong here, squashes Charlotte in the corner and walks away, allowing Jade to come in and hit Jaded, so she not only advances into the ladder match, but stands tall in this segment. This was fucking horrendous for so many reasons. Let's take a beat for a second on who qualified, and we'll do that at the end of the segment, and focus on what happened here, because it was absolute dog shit booking in every conceivable way. After the first match, it appeared as if WWE was taking these qualifiers seriously because they're for a world title after all. They were avoiding interference and bullshit and letting the women actually wrestle.
No.
Jade, arguably the most dominant woman physically in the entire company, advanced in a 60-second match via disqualification. Charlotte, a 13-year veteran and 13-time world champion, was booked to look like an absolute idiot. Jax did address that later, but in the moment, she got completely screwed over by Flair and responded by basically giving her a tight hug in the corner for 3 seconds before leaving the ring as if nothing happened. She didn't grab the mic and throw a fit or stomp around or do anything demonstratively to show the unfairness of what just happened to her. Now, you can say that was her own fault, but I don't even care about placing blame in that regard on Nia. It added to what may have been not only the worst WWE segment of the entire year, but the worst segment on any wrestling TV show in 2026. And the shitty cherry on top, all of this happened in 60 seconds without it at least coming at the end of a real wrestling match featuring women from the division in a world title qualifier. If you want Jade and eventually Charlotte in this match, a decision we will discuss in a moment, why the fuck are you not letting Cargill just, beat Jax legitimately to earn the opportunity? Tell me the logic and reasoning there. To protect Nia? Why does she need protection, especially from Jade of all people? If you're so worried about protecting her, why is she involved in the match at all? This was straight up shameful creative. It was downright dreadful. And that's not even getting into the booking, which is so blatantly obvious and so 2010s Vince McMahon coded that it is shocking. And I said this twice last week. It is astounding to me that no one on the creative team or Paul Levesque himself looked at this and said, wait, why the hell are we doing this? What are we doing here? Are we sure we want it to go this way? Number one, we want to have Jade qualify for the ladder match, period. And number two, we want her to get the spot by 60-second disqualification, a booking that is usually reserved for a comedy wrestler like Chelsea Green or a low carder as a way to excuse them getting into a match in a funny or lucky fashion. We want to give that booking to the most physically dominant woman in the entire company.
0.0.
0.0, Mr. Blutarski.
Shame.
So dumb.
This is a nominee, and as far as I'm concerned, the top contender for 0.0 award, worst of the year, in the 2026 Getting Over Awards, aka
the Meaties.
Believe it or not, I have so much more to say here, but Vintage focused on the booking of the match. Did you feel the same as I did?
I mean, I just can't wait to see this discussion happening on the next season is Unreal, right? Is this the kind of conversation we're going to get from the creative team in there? Probably.
Can you imagine?
I mean, there's nothing more to say. You've talked about six times longer than the actual match went. It was a joke. It again, I said this on last week's episode. The lazy shortcuts they're trying to take in creative and things that aren't really making any sense are just baffling, and they just continued even more so over these last two episodes of TV.
It's hysterical that you don't think I have more to say, or that there is more to say, because holy shit do I. So Jackson Lash Legend complained backstage to Pierce, given the outcome. He explained, hey, Nia, it's okay. You're going to get a second chance next week against Charlotte. So next week, we are either going to get an identical finish, an extremely similar finish, or even if it's a real match, we already know Charlotte is qualifying. If she doesn't go out and win the match, it's going to be just as bad. If it's a real contest, it will be slightly better. But even by virtue of this booking, WWE took a qualification spot away from a woman. Now they're only featuring 9 instead of 10, because heaven forbid a Jordynne Grace or a Blake Monroe or Julia get to wrestle an important match on television. And that brings me to my real point, the key point. Why the fuck are Cargill and likely Flair going to be in this ladder match? WWE has been building a singles non-title feud for them with a legitimate storyline for months now. In fact, it's been one of their stronger women's division bookings of the year, probably the best since Jade and Naomi. Also a non-title feud, by the way, proving once again that women can do those just like men, even for A-level PLEs. I thought that was a turning point for Paul Levesque and WWE, realizing they can successfully book the women in such a manner. Now, look, I'm not playing dumb here, okay? I get that WWE sees this as a world title ladder match, and on SmackDown, Charlotte and Jade are the two most legitimate options to emerge as interim champion. But if you are trying to book the best SummerSlam card possible, and you are wanting to keep this division fresh, and you have fans clamoring for other women to be featured, which, why wouldn't you want to get them over? It's literally your job in creative. Why the hell would you not have Jade and Charlotte cost each other spots in the match, explaining their absence, and further enhancing the hatred they have for one another to get to the one-on-one feud you've been booking for SummerSlam? That way, Flair and Cargill get a deserved, prominent spot on the card, and the rest of the division gets to compete for the interim title with a bunch of fresh faces being featured on a huge show and getting over with fans for their work. Because that's the best part about all of these new women on SmackDown. Their ability to work. They are some of the best wrestlers in the division, and they're not being given the chance to wrestle. Can you imagine WWE pushing different people? Heaven forbid something fresh happen that capitalizes on the insane amount of talent, not only in the division, but specifically on this show. Because don't forget, it's not just Jade and Charlotte in this match. Tiffy's in it too. So 3 of the 5 women in this match are repetitive former champions already. One of them is a current mid-card champion too, from Minnesota, as you mentioned, who should have her own title match with her own challenger on the card. So now a 5-person match effectively has 2 open spots. 2 chances to elevate people and inject life and juice into the match and division instead of 4 or even 5. And one of them is seemingly not going to be JC. This is abhorrent booking and decision-making. How many women's matches are going to be on SummerSlam? You assume they would want 2 per night, the women's title, the interim ladder match, and 2 others. One of those being Charlotte and Jade would have been perfect. Another being Tiffy against Blake or Julia or effing anyone could have worked too. Instead, it's looking like there may only be 2 or maybe 3 if they somehow bubble up the tag team titles. A 6-woman match maybe involving the Bellas. Somehow maybe Sol Ruka defends her title against someone. Look, even if I gave WWE the allowance of putting Stratton in this match, let's say her booking for the US title was not fully formed, so they needed to throw her in here. That would have left 4 ladder spots. Here are the other women on SmackDown who are either not involved in something, so Flair and Cargo, are not written off, Bliss, or they're too low to be put in the match right now. Candice LeRae and Jordan Grace, who has not been on TV in months. And I'm going in alphabetical order. Blake Monroe, Chelsea Green, Julia, JC Jane, Kiana James, Lash Legend, Nia Jax. That is 7 women who could legitimately be in this match or participate in qualifiers. And then you remember what CM Punk said to Candice last week, and we know Jordan's a great wrestler. Both of them could have at least been in qualifying matches. If you ran matches with those 9 women plus Stratton, or you used 7 of them to at least compete in the qualifiers, with 2 of them beating Cargill and Flair due to whatever circumstances, that would have at least been fresh and different and exciting. The division and its massive amounts of talent would be utilized. Suddenly, you would have a match filled with talented wrestlers, and you could almost guarantee a first-time champion and breathe some life into the division and the company. Unique, different, all while leaving Charlotte and Jade for the prominent singles match they have been building for months. But no, heaven forbid we do something like that. Instead, we have Tiffy and Jade already involved, and Charlotte almost certainly getting added. JC takes an L for absolutely no reason, and Nia is not only involved, but somehow wrestling twice. When, let's be honest, she's kind of tired compared to the other fresher and more exciting options, particularly for a ladder match, which is not exactly her type of stipulation, nor, by the way, is it a great fit for Jade or Charlotte. WWE started this whole process with a legitimately exciting announcement that opened the door to all types of possibilities, and they completely botched all of that excitement and hype by running the worst, most boring, and insulting creative immediately after the announcement. It was the easiest layup booking to allow the women to have quality matches deserving of inclusion at SummerSlam. All you're trying to do is crown an interim world effing champion on the second biggest show of the year. No big deal. Please, for the love of all that is holy, find someone who knows how to book women on SmackDown. What the fuck are they thinking?
Now, reminder, you just said all of this about SmackDown. On Monday, we didn't get any women's wrestling. This is 2 separate shows where this is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's embarrassing. It's terrible. Coming out of a WrestleMania, by the way, remember?
That was pathetic.
When there was a lot of criticism about the lack of women's wrestling. We know Triple H loves women's wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
So what the heck is going on? Why is this happening? I think another part of this, we are now just a couple of weeks into the move from a 3-hour SmackDown to a 2-hour SmackDown. And we've seen previously when that adjustment comes, either more or less, they don't handle it well.
No.
It takes them a while to figure out how to repace a show. And that segment, that 60-second DQ match, felt like, well, we'll have all this stuff on the show. Whoops, it's not all going to fit on the show. We're just going to do nothing with it. In terms of the Jade Charlotte of it all, if Jade's in the match, so we're not getting Jade Charlotte one-on-one. So if we are to presume Charlotte also makes it into the match, it feels like the same thing with CM Punk and Cody, where we're going to put the belt on Sami Zayn and fun possibilities. Nope, actually, we're just going to throw it onto CM Punk because he's got to be in the main event with Cody.
Mm-hmm.
And that's therefore just got to have the championship. And so if we're going to do a championship match at SummerSlam and it's not going to be Rhea, well, it's got to be Jade or Charlotte because they're the biggest names. Therefore, they have to be the champion. It's just a lazy shortcut crutch instead of telling an actual story. They had been telling a story with Jade and Charlotte, and now the Rhea injury is tough. You got to adjust your plans, but you're just throwing so much other stuff out the window that it's just the so much of the SummerSlam card is like, let's just do something that sounds good on paper. Don't worry if it doesn't make any sense or anything. We're going to go with it. We're going to have 4 main eventers who are all over 39 years old. We're going to just run Oba Brock for the 3rd time. We're going to do a ladder match, Charlotte. It feels like they're panicking.
Dude.
It feels like they're panicking and they just want to throw their big names and titles at the same people that they used to.
If they came out and said, this is what we're going to do. Every woman on this brand who has previously been a world champion is going to compete for the interim title in a ladder match, it would have been fine.
It would make it feel like a big deal.
Yeah, because you would have Charlotte, Jade, Nia, and Tiffy. I believe that's all 4 on the brand. And maybe you don't even do a ladder match at that point. I love a ladder match, but maybe you don't even do that. Maybe you just do a 4-way, whatever the case.
Women's ladder matches are tough, especially when
you know what? Maybe you do an elimination match between the 4 champions, right? The 4 people on this brand, and you throw all of them in it, and you can do tag team matches leading in, 2 faces and 2 heels, and it can be well booked. But that's what you do. And then you give the other women something else to do on the show. I don't know necessarily what it is, right? But those are still 4. There's only 5 people that are going to be in this match. And we've already discussed 4 of them, right? That would make sense. Don't tell me you're going to do 5 qualifying matches for a ladder match and then just throw 3 people who are champions already in there, with Nia perhaps being the only one who gets excluded because she's going to somehow lose twice. Once because she got screwed and once maybe real next week. Like, it's such a piss poor usage of the circumstance because, again, this is not a vacant championship. It's an interim championship. And I know you're saying, well, Silver King, if Julia goes and wins the interim championship, then it's not as prominent as, she's not going to be treated the same way because she hasn't really deserved it. But you know what? If she wins the interim championship and then retains over Charlotte and then retains over Nia, and then 2 months from now, she fights Rhea Ripley and they go 18 minutes and Ripley barely beats her, guess what? Julia's made. So I cannot fathom how they sat in a creative room and came up with a 5-way ladder match and said, let's make 3 of the people in there, Tiffany Stratton, Jade Cargill, and Charlotte Flair. Let's pull off the prominent Jade-Charlotte match that we had scheduled for the show in order to do this, and let's not freshen this thing up at all. Now, again, look, the final 2 spots, it could be Chelsea Green and Julia, and Chelsea could win. And maybe at SummerSlam, I'm coming around and I'm saying, you know what? Good for WWE. They did something interesting. That doesn't change the fact that these 3 are going to be in the match, and it doesn't change the fact that the booking on Friday night was so ridiculously, insultingly dumb when it came to Jade, Charlotte, and Nia. And to your point, Vintage, this has largely been a SmackDown problem. The women's booking on Raw had been much better, even though it hadn't been great for the majority of the year. But there was no women's wrestling on Monday night. There were no in-ring women's promo talking segments to develop storylines. The only thing they did was around the Intercontinental Championship. It involved Sol Ruca, Raquel Rodriguez, and Lyra Valkyria. Lyra, by the way, who had a shit ton of momentum coming out of Saturday night's main event. You could argue more than anyone else that was on the card from a momentum standpoint. They did all of those during commercial break segments that none of you in the United States saw, and they didn't post any of them to social media. And then they have Liv Morgan and Io Sky on the show because guess what? They have a world title match coming up at SummerSlam. And they were secondary background characters to a comedy segment involving Danhausen. Now, the fans absolutely loved it. And we'll talk about it in the next segment, how much they popped for this. That doesn't change the fact that that was the only women's booking live on the entire show. There's no arguing how poor the creative for the women has been, definitely over the last week, but over the last few months. The fact that Liv never once defended the title, that she was in Queen of the Ring, that we're basically getting a rematch here now. And they haven't built, outside of a couple weeks ago, they had one great segment between Liv and Io. Outside of that, they've done nothing to build this match further for SummerSlam. It is absolutely pathetic. The fans want more. They have shown you time and again, they will pop for the women. They will cheer for them. They want fresh, new faces in these divisions. You've called up all this talent on SmackDown, and you're not using any of it. Meanwhile, Raw is basically barren, and the women can't even get on television. And that show's longer than 2 hours.
Barely.
This week, barely.
So, yeah. So, it's a mess. You laid it out well. Be better. Do better. WWE, Triple H. Come on. What are we doing?
Yeah, man. It's genuinely amazing to me that WWE has seemingly forgotten its best PLE of 2025, top to bottom, was Evolution. And frankly, it wasn't even that close if you think about it. The creative for this entire division has just fallen off a cliff in 2026, especially so after WrestleMania with Ripley and Stephanie Vaquer injured. It's like Levesque and company just threw up their hands and chose not to worry about all the other immensely talented women they could build into huge stars with even a modicum of effort. They shoved a bunch of them on SmackDown, then the show lost an hour of television. Now they have nowhere to show up. On Raw, there's a huge heel babyface imbalance given some changes they made. They should have put some of those women on that show, chose not to. And now we go into SummerSlam and the women's division is an absolute travesty, and WWE has absolutely no one to blame but themselves and, of course, the creative team. Looks like we still have plenty of time with Vintage, so we're not going to waste it. But what is wasting away may be the Getting Over bank account. So it's incumbent upon all of you to remember here at the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, because for $5 a month or $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover, sign up. You will, when appropriate, get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reaction audio whenever there is major breaking news at the end of a huge wrestling television show. Of course, you will also get weekly written updates, news, analysis, editorials, a bunch of extra content from your boys here at Getting Over. And that $5 a month or $50 for the entire year, it keeps the lights on. That's the only reason we want it. We want you to have extra content, get connected to the show, and support us. buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Now, there is still plenty that happened across Raw and SmackDown this week, and we're going to get to the rest of it right now by grading the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Hey, yo. Survey says one more for the good guy.
Say hello to the back.
Don't sing it. Bring it.
The Vision fought Javon Evans and Dragon Lee in a non-title match. This literally opened Raw, which was nice for a change, getting a high-octane match right up front. The faces were shot out of a cannon at the bell. Logan Paul got constant heat throughout. The Vision matched gear-wise, but Braun Breakers looked dumb as usual. Strong move early with a catch World's Strongest Slam. Evans was super impressive on his hot tag with a Matrix-style avoidance into a leaping cutter. He also caught Theory with We Outside and dodged a charging breaker into the Timekeeper's area before taking him down with a runaround splash over it. Logan and Maxine Dupree ran a double distraction, turning the tide. Braun absolutely murked Javon with a spear after he broke a fall before flattening Dragon with an assisted quadruple rope run spear, something that is going to need a name because I don't want to keep saying that every single time here on the show. The Vision attacked Evans after the bell, so Alpha Academy, still called that with the music and all, trotted down to save. They leveled the heels, and Otis overcame a smack from Maxine to flatten them further in the ring. But when he went to spear Theory through the announce table, Breaker speared him out of his shoes ringside and hit the same finisher inside as Dupree sat atop the ring post, watching her guys. I said Otis was going to spear Theory through the announce table. I'm sure it was a powerbomb or something else. It's just a mistake in my notes. Vision later got a commercial break promo where they got a significant amount of heat with Logan deciding they would fight in a non-title tag team match against Academy next week on Raw. To get the criticism out of the way, the original match was booked for no rhyme or reason. I would have liked something quick, even on social media, establishing that Javon and Dragon chose to team up given their respect for each other after fighting last week, or Vision was acting an ass backstage, bumped into those guys, therefore they wanted to fight. Something to explain why the champions were fighting a pair of dudes in a non-title match. WWE does not do this often, just throw a match out there. So it's not worthy of heavy scorn because it happens so infrequently. But also, they have social media channels and they had plenty of time on this episode. Why not do something like that? The match was a blast, though. The faces got to show out in a real way. Javon more so than Dragon. The heels got a necessary win over a couple of guys who were not an established team. Best of all, for anyone worried last week about Theory getting featured over Breaker because he got a 1 week push with Dupree, Braun was by far the most dominant party in this match, and the Vision got a ton of heat throughout. As Vintage said last week, Academy needs a full rebranding if they're going to be in a legitimate title feud. It does seem like WWE is going full bore with giving them that opportunity, and that's obviously a positive, but coming out to that music, wearing the red, white, and blue still, it just doesn't work for them. 3.75 stars, B+. The match was really good, as was the segment.
Yeah, I'll give it a good for the wrestling in the overall point. Your point about not building it or it being random, this was the very first thing on Raw.
Yeah.
Like, they opened the show with this. We didn't even get, like, big recaps or bloodline stuff. They went straight to this match, which is also extremely rare for the way WWE does it. And it made me think at the beginning of Raw, like, oh, maybe they're responding to, feelings about Saturday night's main event and maybe lack of wrestling bits here and there. We're going straight to wrestling to start the show. And it made the show just feel a little bit different when it opened. And I did like that.
For all of our criticisms of Raw, and it deserves them from Monday night and WWE TV this week in totality, which was probably the weakest, by the way, top to bottom week, Friday and Monday combined in months, the episode felt different. And some of that was personnel. Some of it was the way it was formatted. And that was nice. It was fresh. But it's one thing to be different and something else to be incomplete. And this episode felt incomplete. This is one of those reasons. No build for this. It was also the best match of the show that opened. Everything else after it was worse in ring. And then we've already discussed what happened with the women, but we will be talking about that more because there is more of that to cover. JD McDonough held Danhausen up against the wall backstage like a high school bully. Judgment Day continued demanding their money, which Danhausen said he would try to find just so Liv Morgan didn't hit him with her world championship. Roxanne Perez and Raquel Rodriguez then got a commercial break interview saying a bunch of nothing before Rodriguez learned she was getting an Intercontinental Championship match next week. Raquel did cut a solid promo about that, but it's something of a silly booking because she literally lost a title match to Sol Ruca earlier this month. I want to say like July 6th. She did get a bit screwed in that match, but still, she hasn't done anything since then to deserve a rematch. Perez was clearly bothered that Rodriguez was getting another opportunity, and she is not, so they're still telling that story. Danhausen then came out to the ring with a bag, suggesting he had the money, but while he wants to get rid of it, he doesn't want Judgment Day to have it. He was going to give it to the Fanhausens. The heels came out to prevent them from receiving the human monies, and though he was able to get a curse off, they still attacked him. Joe Hendry saved and hit a fallaway slam on Dominic Mysterio as Liv ran off with the briefcase. Judgment Day then threw a fit backstage, noticing the money was fake. McDonough threw the bag backwards while yelling at Danhausen, and Hendry was there with Pierce between them. Turns out the bag hit Oba Femi, who wanted a fight, so Pierce booked a pair of singles matches. I gotta tell you, I was going full bad until the last part with the integration of Oba. While I didn't mind the general concept of all of this, it started as a bunch of nothing, and I further do not understand why Dominic continues to be booked like this when he's mega champion in AAA. Beyond that, if Hendry was going to save and Danhausen was like, I got a couple words for you, why didn't Danhausen say his name so he would appear as opposed to doing another curse? It's like WWE has dropped that gimmick entirely without even using it on the main roster. And without the gimmick, what is Hendry? He's a guy who plays guitar, but he's less impressive physically than Elias. I do like them as teammates. I think Danhausen and Hendry can be a lot of fun together. This was the onset of that. They have a super high ceiling together from a comedy standpoint. And Femi tied the whole thing together with his aggressiveness. So I am actually going to move this part of the storytelling and booking to a good, but still the Hendry part frustrated me.
I'm doing a bad.
That's fair.
Because this was basically the anchor story of Raw, which is insane to do.
Well,
2 weeks out from
yeah, my
SummerSlam.
bad is coming on that later, but yes, fair enough.
Like several segments on this, as we've said, this was the only bit with women's wrestlers, and it wasn't women's wrestling. I agree that Danhausen and Joe Hendry could be something fun, but you're right. They didn't even do Joe Hendry's gimmick. Right now, he's just the guy who sings the Logan Paul song.
Right.
And that's where it again comes back to, like, can you just put a little bit of effort into a guy? Like, it's a gimmick. It got over in NXT.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense on the main roster because they haven't explained it. And if anybody was to properly explain it and get it over, it would be Danhausen.
Well, that's the whole thing. He should have said, "Hey, I only have a few words for you," and then McDonough or Mysterio says, "What? We are cursed." They mock him, and then Danhausen goes, "No, I believe in Joe Hendry," and then Joe Hendry comes out, and the song starts. Say his name, and he appears, and then Michael Cole always said his name, and blah blah blah, and then now you've made the gimmick and you've explained it, and instead they just didn't do any of it.
Is this too much Danhausen? It was on this episode.
We're not done. That was just the onset of it. So yeah, let's have that conversation. Okay. But let's talk about everything else that happened first. So Femi squashed McDonough, who didn't even get to take off his t-shirt. JD sold his ass off as usual. What was really impressive was when Oba was throwing him, JD was shaking his body while in the middle of the air. That's how much hang time he had before he landed. It's unfortunate he didn't get to work a little bit. I would have liked to have seen this be a 3-minute match instead of a 1-minute match. Femi cut a promo into the camera after the bell, decrying the fake money stuff from earlier, saying the real money will be when Brock Lesnar meets him in Hell in a Cell. This is ungradable because nothing happened to judge, but this is probably the one SummerSlam feud that could get away with no additional build this week. I'm sure they're still going to do a big go-home face-to-face on Monday. We did get build, though, for Femi and Lesnar, just not with Femi or Lesnar. Paul Heyman got an independent package as the advocate, saying he was asked by WWE to do the impossible and not use the word violence while promoting Hell in a Cell. He was serious and convincing, speaking methodically as he put over Lesnar's incredible career and record inside the structure. Heyman admitted that Femi is having the best rookie year since Lesnar, but he promised he would neither conquer nor rule over Brock, who would put a violent end to the neophytes' run in his hometown. Lesnar, by the way, is 2-0 inside Hell in a Cell. 2 wins over The Undertaker, 13 years apart from one another. I found that interesting. He's also 4-0 in steel cage matches. WWE, building this match, should be promoting that Lesnar is 6-0 in a WWE cage, which would give Femi something else to conquer besides Lesnar himself, which he's already done. Heyman alluded to that. He didn't say as much. The specificity is important, and I don't know why they don't get into the details. Still, this was excellent, as one would expect from a Heyman-led package. Did a great job hyping the match. Did not need that much more ahead of next week's go-home, so that was good.
I agree. Laid it out well. Like you said, there's just a little bit more here and there you can add that really add to the picture. But, it's Paul Heyman delivering a promo. Like, it's going to be good, and of course it was.
Now, we mentioned what happened with Rodriguez and Perez earlier. Sol Ruca got her own off-TV interview saying she would beat Raquel again. Lyra Valkyria interrupted her, ranting about everything people love about Sol, who tried to calm her down, saying Valkyria is not acting like herself. Lyra promised she was coming back for the title that belongs to her. She was excellent here. It straight up boggles my mind that this was not aired on the main show. How the hell do you not get Valkyria on Raw proper and capitalize on her momentum when she was the second biggest wrestling headline coming out of Saturday night's main event? This did not make a shred of sense. Raw ended 15 minutes earlier than it normally does. They could have gone blank for a break and then used this as a real segment on the show, whether backstage or in the ring. Undoubtedly a quality segment, but I'm giving this a bad for WWE botching the momentum because many of you didn't even get to see it. And I double checked before we started recording. They didn't post it on social media, either Twitter or YouTube. So unless you found one of those accounts that actually tapes the show in Europe and posts clips online, you don't get to see anything from Lyra, who had a great, not just wrestling match, but gimmick transition 48 hours earlier.
What is the point of WWE doing those segments? Like
to fill in slots that would be ads in the United States. But the reason that doesn't make sense, Vintage, is because for NXT and SmackDown, which also air on Netflix internationally, yes, sometimes match continue during break and they show the matches and that's cool. But there's often times where nothing happens and it's just blank and you get a screen that tells you the show is coming back. So if they're okay with that for SmackDown and NXT internationally, why are they not okay with that on Raw to ensure that all the segments that are important actually make television for the US audience, which is their main audience?
Right. Like, how do you do a Lyra follow-up that very few people can actually see and you don't post it on social? Like, it's a waste of everybody's time. It's a waste of a Lyra promo. It's so strange how often you come on this show and explain something that we didn't see on American TV and we also can't find on the YouTube channel or something. It's so weird. And it's been going on for a couple of years now since they've been doing the Netflix deal. It's so strange.
It's a sin for me when the show goes 2.5 hours and they do this, right? But it is unacceptable for me when the show is 2 hours and 10, 15 minutes and they don't do this. And what makes it worse is, okay, let's say you want to use those commercial breaks for improv promos. So things aren't planned and you're just going to see how they go. When they go well, you should then be clipping them and posting them on social media. This went incredibly well. Soul did a good job. Lyra did a great job. It enhanced and continued her character. So why would you then not clip it and post it on Twitter or make it one of those, WWE social exclusives, and the next morning, Tuesday morning, you post it on YouTube? It doesn't exist anywhere. So what's the point of doing it at all? Because you can't tell me you threw them out there and said, hey, if it's good, we're going to post it. And their opinion was it wasn't good, because there's no way that was the case. They both did a great job in this segment. And by the way, Raquel was totally solid in her promo earlier. They could have packaged both of those together. Women's Intercontinental Championship heats up on Raw, exclusive. And you show those promos and segments. I can't make sense of it. Hopefully they can develop Soul and Lyra into a title match for SummerSlam next week. Maybe run a triple threat or four-way with Raquel and Roxanne, because they are going to do this on the Go Home Raw. So, they're setting up women's things for a major show. But I don't know. This needs to be on the card given what is happening with this division, almost as a make good. Like at this point, it's so ridiculously frustrating. Let's get into the final part of this. Hendry fought Mysterio. That was the second match made by Pierce. Liv threw Joe into the ring post early, leading Danhausen down for an attempted curse. Morgan thwarted that, though, by punching him square in the face. So he just ran backstage, which was kind of funny. Dom hit three amigos and a tornado DDT in between. Joe landed a cradled vertical suplex, follow-away slam, and hit single. Danhausen then rode out in his vehicle with Io Sky in the backseat, both doing her emote. Io destroyed Liv ringside, throwing her shoulder first into the ring apron. I thought she got hurt given her prior injury. She also hit a missile dropkick and an apron splash, allowing Danhausen to hit the triple D on Dom behind the referee's back, with Hendry covering for the 1-2-3. Now, two things can be true. The fans absolutely loved this due to the combination of Danhausen, Hendry, and Io, and a couple heels getting comeuppance for their actions all night. And I did too, from an entertainment standpoint. Danhausen and Io together was super fun. And it would have been a great segment in June or December, not 2 weeks out from a SummerSlam world title match. Analyzing the booking, it was the mega champion taking another unnecessary loss and a women's top level storyline for SummerSlam. The only top women's storyline that currently exists for SummerSlam, because the other is for an interim title and is not even filled out yet. There's only 2 qualifiers. The top women's storyline for SummerSlam, its penultimate moment on TV, was built through a men's comedy segment on an episode of Raw where the women were entirely marginalized. So while this was indeed entertaining and fun, and a good time had by all most other weeks, on the road to SummerSlam, circumstantially, I do have to grade this bad, and Hendry should probably be getting a mega title match. After all,
to beat the champion, to be able to beat the champion, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, same thing. It's what I said before. We're like, this was the main anchor story throughout Raw. in that it shouldn't be. And the crowd cheered and it was fine, but in the larger context of the show, this shouldn't be maybe the highlight of the show. And so Danhausen. There's a lot of Danhausen on this show. After a Saturday night's main event that was partially built around Danhausen. Since he's come up, they've kind of gone in waves where it feels like there's too much of him, then they pull back and you don't get him much, and then there's a lot of him again. I think here the issue is not Danhausen, it was the lack of everybody else on this show.
Exactly.
That Danhausen didn't need to be in 3-4 segments or whatever it was. Like, we could have had more Seth. There wasn't a Roman. There wasn't a Brock. Nothing was really kind of going towards SummerSlam. And we say this as they since announced Danhausen versus Dom at SummerSlam. And, like, are we just going to do mini Hausens again? Like, are we already running out of things to do with him? And are they going to run it back again at SummerSlam?
So I don't think they're running out of stuff to do with him because he is super creative and WWE has been really smart working with him. So when the mini Hausens run their course, when the cloning machine runs its course, they will pivot to something else. I think what can be the best contextualization of Danhausen on Monday night and in WWE over most weeks is when they have time to fill. It's like, well, we have Danhausen. Why don't we do something with him? And sometimes it progresses stories and sometimes it doesn't. This technically progressed multiple stories because it created 2 matches on TV, another one for SummerSlam, which, by the way, now we're going to have Mysterio, the AAA Mega Championship, who's going to be main eventing that brand's biggest show of the year in a comedy match at SummerSlam. Now, I have no issue with the match on its face. Danhausen's massive right now. Dom is important for WWE long-term. He is a terrific foil for Danhausen. But I will lose my mind if he loses this match. I'm just going to freak out if Danhausen beats this guy on SummerSlam when he's the champion. It'd be one thing if he wasn't, and they could make comedy out of it, and then Dom goes on a run on the back end. But the guy is an active #1 champion for a brand. He cannot be losing to Danhausen at SummerSlam. This needs to be the guy's first loss in WWE. What Raw felt like to me on Monday night was like they were operating with a split squad. And for those of you who don't know that term, in spring training for baseball, oftentimes a team will split its roster and play 2 games in like different cities. They'll do one in, let's say, Florida, Port St. Lucie, and another one in Tampa. And Raw felt like a split squad. To your point, no Brock Lesnar, no Roman Reigns. They promoted Seth Rollins for the show. His entirety of being was coming out for half of a segment with Solo Sikoa. Like, he didn't cut a promo, respond to what happened Saturday night. Like, nothing really was there for him. The women were marginalized, as we discussed. It felt in every way like WWE said, hey, we can just skip over this Raw. Let's just put enough on screen to fill out 2+ hours. And, you know, maybe they have a 2-hour, 15-minute minimum with Netflix. And they did just enough to get that and have enough stuff for the commercial breaks. Okay, let's just move on and get on with the week. It's the penultimate Raw. Like. It's the penultimate Raw before SummerSlam. It's not the penultimate Raw before Backlash or No Mercy or whatever the case. Like, this is a big show. It should have been a big show. And it was in Detroit. It wasn't in, Albany like SmackDown was. So that's why it was so frustrating, because it wasn't just what happened on screen vintage. It was the circumstances of what happened on screen.
Yes, I agree with you. Dom needs to win at SummerSlam. Also, whatever happened to the Miz Kit Wilson stuff?
That's a SmackDown storyline.
Oh, you're right. Is Danhausen just always on both shows?
Not always. He's been primarily relegated to SmackDown, but now that they're building the Dominic storyline with Judgment Day, they did it for both Saturday night's main event and for SummerSlam. They gave him more time on Raw, so that's why. So
it continues my struggle to remember who was on which show.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Miz and Kit Wilson instead of the minis, because like if JD McDonough is there getting
that has back, to be like that. That's a way to pull the stories together. Judgment Day comes out, JD or whatever, and then you have Miz and Kit Wilson who are under his control, doing their bits. Maybe Zack Ryder's there as Zack Ryder. I don't know. Like maybe you can bring it all together in a fun thing, but it's a lot of Danhausen.
It is. Now look, we've been, this is a show historically where we're not negative We're not positive. We're just straightforward with our opinions. This episode, Vintage, I feel like has been mostly negative. So let's kind of change the tone a little bit. And I'm not saying that all of a sudden every segment that we're going to discuss going forward is going to get it good. But our listeners have been waiting for weeks now for us to hold a Hey Now Championship gauntlet match. And now that we are done with all of the segments involving the reigning champion, let's go ahead, ring the damn bell, and run for the first time ever a 4-woman Hey Now Championship gauntlet match.
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
Now, the 4 participants in this Hey Now gauntlet match are Roxanne Perez, Fallon Henley, Kathy Kelly, and Liv Morgan. Vintage, of course, Roxanne Perez is the reigning champion with that ridiculous leopard print outfit she had seemingly a month ago at this point on Raw. I believe she was ringside and didn't even necessarily wrestle in it. The first challenger here is going to be Fallon Henley, who blew up our Slack channel with that jean vest and Daisy Duke shorts a couple weeks ago on SmackDown. It's a tight contest, Vintage. Silver King is ruling in favor of Roxy. I think Fallon is going to be a perennial and consistent contender here for the Hey Now Championship. I don't believe this was the overall look that is going to get her the title. So I'm going with Roxy retaining. I'm wondering if you're on the same page as the Silver King.
I'm going to go Roxanne Perez retains as well.
Second challenger, Kathy Kelly, who, of course, is not normally in the ringside area, but she set Twitter ablaze and TV's ablaze as well with that canary yellow dress with the collar. I think it was a blue collar. Vintage, do you have a title change here between Kathy and Roxanne?
I do. Kathy Kelly, you forgot to mention, glasses on, very much the librarian look.
Definitely.
Which what we got on that SmackDown, which was a couple of weeks ago at this point. I will cast my vote for Kathy Kelly here.
I got to tell you, Roxy's look was special and it deserved a long title reign. But every once in a while, the backstage interviewers bring something out that you don't expect. It's exactly what Kathy Kelly did on Friday Night SmackDown. The new Hey Now champion, Kathy Kelly.
I like it. I like it a lot.
However, she is immediately defending that championship against the 4th competitor here in the Hey Now Gauntlet, Liv Morgan. Not from this week, but from last week, who came out in her somewhat normal, really tight, short white shirt and really short black shorts, but this time had them unbuckled with nude underwear underneath, making it look like she was wearing absolutely nothing. And I am convinced she did this because she realized she's losing a grip on the Hey Now Championship. And you know what? As far as Silver King is concerned, she got it right back. I have Liv Morgan defeating Kathy and becoming, once again, the new Hey Now champion. Vintage. What about you?
So a couple of weeks ago, Liv had a title shot.
She did.
Wearing very similar stuff, very short, tight shorts, the hip bones or whatever out. And I called for a title change. You did not.
I did
stuck
not.
with Roxy. So Liv has since upped her game after that defeat. She came back stronger. It was grinding tape and has come back stronger than ever and takes the title back.
What an incredible gauntlet match. And new Hey Now champion, Liv Morgan. Can you imagine if WWE did something that interesting, a gauntlet match for a championship that the champion takes into the opening of the match and it changes hands multiple times before it ends? Heaven forbid they book something that creative over the last couple of years. Regardless, congrats once again. I've lost count, Vintage. It might be her 4th reign, maybe her 5th reign. The brand new Hey Now champion back. I guess as many who follow the show and join our Slack channel and suggest these things believe where the title belongs. Liv Morgan.
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
And of course, just to clarify for anyone who might be a first-time listener, this is just a respectful award. It's fun. It was suggested and invented by women who listen to this show. There's also apparently a male equivalent that has been bubbling up behind the scenes in our Slack channel where some of the guys who might be disposed a different way have been arguing back and forth recently between some Drew McIntyre looks from the past, Nick Aldis more recently. So we might have to introduce a second version of the Hey Now Championship here on the podcast at some point before the year is out. Let's get back to our regularly scheduled program here at Getting Over. Finn Balor fought Tala Tonga, probably another Hey Now contender there in Finn Balor. This was obviously a David and Goliath booking. Joe Tessitore called Balor's inverted DDT the Wicklow drop, which I have never heard before. But you know what?
How do you like that, huh?
I like it a lot, Bailey. More moves should have names. Tala picked Finn off the rope for a sky-high DDT. He countered down into a DDT only to get his head taken off with a big boot. Balor twice outsmarted Tama as he attempted to interfere, hitting a shotgun dropkick in the corner and 2 coup de grace for the squeaky clean win for the second straight week. Ladies and gentlemen, Win Balor has returned, and it is wild to experience.
Oh! Yes! I love that!
Not 1, but 2 clean falls against a numbers disadvantage in consecutive weeks. I said it last week with fingers crossed. I'm going to say it now with 50% belief. WWE may actually be pushing Balor for the first time in years, and Silver King is 100% here for it. It's absolutely insane that he is so incredibly over as a babyface, despite his booking as a constant mid-card heel loser for the last few years. It speaks to his talent and potential. The fans have been red hot for him in consecutive weeks, and it's a SmackDown crowd, so that's even more impressive. This was nowhere near the match we got last week with Tama, but given the booking, how ridiculously protected Tala has been in the ring, booked like Kane almost, and how Balor got over huge while doing it clean, this was definitely good.
Definitely good. Speaking of age, he's 5 years older than Nick Aldis.
It's crazy.
Finn Balor is. I thought commentary did a really good job on this.
Mm-hmm.
Like building up the size of Tala and the difficulty that would create for someone like Finn, who's going to have to work quicker and take advantage of the speed. I thought Wade and Tessitore were just really good on this match. It really just kind of stuck out for a match you otherwise may not care about that much. And winning it with 2 coup de grace, like it or not, they did put effort into Tala Tonga the last month or so. So therefore, it has to mean something when Finn takes him down, which he did. I liked it. Good.
Yeah, last few months. And that is the thing. Like, look, I was criticizing how protected Tala was, and I still stand by that. I'm not changing my opinion. But because he was so protected, this clean Balor win meant even more, especially because he had Tama there by his side. So he didn't just go over one of the most protected guys, as insane as that has been. He also got over someone who had backup. And that's just super impressive for Finn. Penta and Chad Gable fought Rusev and Ethan Page. After just last week, I praised WWE for going a long time without running Can They Coexist matches on the main roster. They did 2 in 72 hours, but this was developed on TV last week and through prior interactions. It was totally fine. Page got more than solid heat, calling bullshit on Gable's Redemption Tour and calling out exactly what I just did about the Can They Coexist team up. He did that during a commercial break. Unfortunately, it was during a break and you guys didn't get to see it. Gable got a moderate reaction. Penta's was fantastic. Pyro returned to the ring. Gable's hot tag was a barrage of suplexes, plus an angle slam on Page. Michael Cole called him a young man on commentary. Chad Gable is 40 years old. Rusev caught him with a swinging Uranagi. Penta broke
older
the fall.
Than Nick Aldis.
He is indeed. Penta broke the fall, kicking the dude square in the head, and then he hit a perfect tope con hero that ended up as an unintentional senton. Gable and Rusev got into a hockey fight before Gable powered out of the accolade, countering into an ankle lock. He crouched down so Penta could jump off his back for a Mexican destroyer on Page, and Gable locked in the grapevine for the clear submission with the ankle. Strong match, necessary finish to not only give Gable an impressive victory, but clear the deck for their one-on-one match at SummerSlam. The only thing missing is storytelling. I really want a solid go-home segment next week tying everything together. It doesn't even need to be in the ring. This is the perfect opportunity, especially because Penta, he speaks English but doesn't speak it perfectly, to do one of those sit-down interview segments where it gets heated between them at the end, or just some video package storytelling for how well of a job Penta's done as champion, plus Gable's, road up to this point as challenger, going into his hometown, so on and so forth. This was good. I just want a little bit more from a storyline standpoint next week.
It was good. And I'll say this, the clapping for Chad Gable's entrance, there was a bit of it in Detroit. At least on this show.
On
it
and
was
off.
more than it had been.
Yeah, on and off.
Yeah. Enough where I actually noticed it this time.
It's
So there's
exactly the same as the Street Profits. When when the wrestler does it, the crowd immediately does it with him. But if they don't do it, the crowd won't do it on their own.
Yeah, Gable needs to do it earlier in his entrance. He's not doing it till the second time it comes around on the song in the ring, and by then it's too late.
He should do it as soon as he gets on stage and the camera's on him, and then once again when he gets to the top rope. Those are the two times he should do it. Yeah.
It's like, you're not wrong, like, story-wise, that there could be more, and obviously the guys were face-to-face at the SummerSlam kickoff too, but the biggest problem is this is a babyface versus a babyface. Like, people are into Chad Gable, but they just love Penta, and they probably like Penta more.
They do.
Now, maybe they won't in Minneapolis because they've been leaning into that, but like, people aren't rallying around Chad Gable to get this title because he would take it off of somebody we like holding the title. This is just like basic wrestling fundamentals. Like, from whatever moment they decided this would be Gable's path, if it was after the AAA show when he revealed himself, they should have immediately figured out a way to get this IC title on, frankly, Ethan Page or maybe Rusev. Either one of those guys who's been doing a good job, just for the purpose of Gable taking it off of them.
I would say
I think that's what this is really hurting.
I would say the better move would probably to be running a triple threat where Page is there as the heel and therefore Gable can beat him. But they do have a legitimate full circle storyline with Gable and Penta. The problem is it started as Penta babyface, Gable a pure heel. It's come all the way around. They're both babyfaces. Penta didn't turn heel. Therefore, you know what I mean? There's not, to your point, that momentum for Chad to win, but they can build that in the match. When you have a really high quality wrestling match and you have Gable eat the Mexican Destroyer and kick out, and he eats some of Penta's other, like the Penta Driver and some of his other signature moves, and he keeps kicking out at 2.9, all of a sudden the crowd's going to get roused behind him, where when he does get the 1, 2, 3, if that is how they book it, he's going to get cheered. But you're right. If he was able to beat Ethan Page or a heel and something like that, it would probably be a little bit louder. The bigger issue with Gable across the board, it's just the presentation. It's not all the way there. Getting Chad Gable back, making him more serious and less pure, I'm an American who used to be a collegiate wrestler, right? It was a fine general concept. But when you have Michael Cole on commentary saying, well, it's Gable who, when he comes out, you get to enjoy dad rock. It's painting him as an old dude. Like, again, he's 40. So don't call him a young man when he's not, and then talk about dad rock 2 seconds later in the same match. Like, you want to bring him out, sure, but the music should be energetic and relatively modern. It should have something that the fans can sing along to a little bit. Yeah, they have the Gable bit, but it's like it's out of a Rocky transitional, segment. It's weird.
Everybody knows my feelings on the song. I think it's great. I think there's real potential there. I think, one, they haven't fully nailed the character yet, like you said.
Yeah.
But I still think it's all relative around what's the story. And there's not a captivating story right now. Yeah. Compare this to when he was going up against Gunther before WrestleMania 40. Like, people were into that and into him because it was just, that's wrestling. You got to have a story to get into. He especially if you're going to have a kind of generic gimmick.
Gable got his incredibly emotional moment at the AAA show. They showed clips of that on TV. The ensuing weeks, he went on an apology tour. It was working. Like, you were really buying into it. And then he made his apologies. And now he's just a wrestler. I mean, he's still helping the luchadors and getting their backs, and now he's friends with Penta and so on, and he won the #1 contendership. I get all of that. But they stopped telling his story. Where is this means so much to my family? Look what happened when I fought Gunther, and I thought I was going to win, and he beat me, and my daughter cried in the crowd. Remember they showed the kid crying, and we were like, oh my God, this is going to be so incredible. Gable's going to get his redemption at WrestleMania. And then they took him out of the storyline, and they gave it to Sami Zayn instead, right? So they need to go back to that. I want to see footage of Gunther beating him and the kid crying and Gable getting depressed and going heel and now realizing, oh no, I need to be a babyface. This is really the right path for me. That's what we need next week on the go home. That's why I'm saying a video package, an interview. It does not need to be in the ring. I just need a little bit of storytelling for it.
Yes, but that it's only going to work to an extent when you're going up against Penta, who people are going to love. Like there's in this matchup, there are just not enough people who want Chad Gable to win. And that's a problem.
Maybe that is different in Minnesota.
Want him to win.
But maybe that's different based on location.
Maybe
2 weeks.
But Penta's going to be cheered too. It's like wrestling's always a two-way street. It's like the best superheroes are sometimes the best because of their great villains.
But there is no you do not always have to run babyface heel or a triple threat with a heel and 2 baby faces. You can run 2 baby faces in a match. You just got to build it properly.
When your story is redemption, you have to do that by beating a heel. Otherwise, he just makes the apologies and that's it. You know who should have the title right now is Dominic. Dominic should have the title.
Dominic should have the title.
Be doing because his whole thing was the luchador stuff. So here's Gable fighting 4 luchadors who don't like the way Dominic conducts himself, and he's going to take that title back, and then someone else will take the mega title. Like that's how you lean into it.
Also, Dom was the one who set him out on the path, finding the mask and going, the whole thing. Dom's the one who basically turned him into El Grande Americano or Rishi.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right about that. 1,000%. I'm just saying it can still work. They're just not, they've done a solid, acceptable job. They have not done a great job building this. They have one more opportunity next week. That's all I'm really trying to say. Baron Corbin got a promo package saying he's been watching SmackDown, seeing guys claiming they're tough while everyone knows he's the real deal. He was focused on Trick Williams, calling Carmelo Hayes collateral damage because anyone getting in his way is going to get run over. This was Corbin's best and most serious promo in WWE, frankly, that I can remember. Williams responded in a live backstage promo calling Corbin a big, bald-headed bitch. He was just kind of ranting when Hayes interrupted, willing to blame Corbin for last week, but nevertheless being steadfast and wanting the championship match because they both know Melo is better than Trick. It got heated between them. Williams incorrectly said Hayes has done nothing on SmackDown. There was a lot of energy and charisma on display between them. It's a bit frustrating that nothing developed here. It was a loaded show on Friday. I don't like how Trick will often say things that are just not true and fans buy it because Trick's saying it. He really needs to be careful about some of the stuff he says. Even back in the day, I don't want to compare him to The Rock, but The Rock wouldn't lie. He wouldn't fully diminish someone's accomplishments. He would just say, those don't matter because I'm better. So Trick, you can do that, but don't act like Melo hasn't done shit. He had a great United States Championship reign, and he's had some terrific feuds on SmackDown. This was still good overall. I really like what they're doing with Corbin, surprisingly. And Trick and Melo are improving their game step by step every single week.
Agree. Like good, not a ton more to it, but I'm interested.
Fraxium fought the War Raiders. This went precisely as one would expect. While Fraxium flew around and impressed with their athleticism, the Raiders were dominant physically, often squashing them into the canvas. Ivar missed an attempted double doomsault, eating a springboard 450 from Nathan Frazier afterward. Axiom took a huge leg lariat and Uranagi for a flying broken fall. Frazier overshot a tope suicida with a nasty landing as part of a trio of risks by the faces. They took Ivar off the top rope with a double superplex. Frazier added a Phoenix splash for a broken fall. The crowd fully bought into the action they were seeing. The Raiders came back with Viking experience and Ragnarok, their double powerbomb, and got the win. Fraxium, the best tag team in the world, mind you, has not won a match on TV in 14 months. 14 months. This was the best tag team match we've seen on SmackDown probably since TLC last year. There might be another I'm forgetting, but that's how few and far between that quality tag team matches have been booked for this show. However, while there was some backstage interaction last week, this match happened for no reason, especially considering Damian Priest and R-Truth had already accepted the Raiders as their number one contenders like 3 weeks ago. This was established, yet for some reason, the title match still has not been made, despite the Raiders insisting that it get made. And this happened instead. I am glad Fraxium got TV time, don't get me wrong, but they were fodder for another feud. Had this been an open number one contendership, it would have been incredible. But again, it's already established the Raiders are number one contenders. If Fraxium was allowed to wrestle on TV weekly, they would get insanely over with fans. The Raiders are great. Priest and Truth are champions doing absolutely nothing. This great is super tough. It would get a bad for logic and storytelling, but an undoubted good for action. I guess since this elevated the tag team division a bit, it got a solid amount of time. It was the match of the night, and I am grading it 3.75 stars B+. I will go like good.
Yeah, I'll give it like good because we got good tag team wrestling, and that is very difficult to find on WWE TV these days. there's barely any semblance of a tag division. They try to do stuff, they don't. This was the other instance of someone going for double champions. The War Raiders talking about being double champions. Twice on SmackDown, we're talking about double champions. Like, there's just too many belts and too many people with belts fighting for other belts. It should never happen.
Not too many belts. Too little diversity of challengers. That is the biggest issue right now. The AAA titles, them existing and being on main roster superstars and largely not getting defended on TV, with the exception of Rey Fenix recently, totally fine. Like, it's cool to say they're champions, but not really have them, defend the titles on the brand. But other people should be challenging for tag team titles, intercontinental titles, United States championships. The U.S. champion should not be, as we mentioned earlier, in a 5-person interim ladder match when you have 10 women on the brand and you could pick any other 5 to be part of it. So we're not going to get into the whole thing again. But yes, your frustrations are noted and agreed upon, Vintage. And lastly here, Big Cass got a second vignette on Raw. It flashed headlines about his multiple failures, personal and professional, before he said in a voiceover, "You have no idea how far you can fall." It seems like WWE is allowing him to go with this real life return angle, which is not only welcome, it's interesting. There's not much to take away from it other than to point out he will be making his re-debut in 2 weeks on the Raw after SummerSlam. But you know what? Thumb up last week, thumb up this week. I did not think I'd be this into a Big Cass return.
Yeah, I'm interested in this. I like it. The real life aspect of it kind of forces people to maybe go down a rabbit hole to figure it out, because it's been a long time since Big Cass was in WWE. They may not know what any of these things are about.
Mm-hmm.
But that gimmick often immediately fails.
Often does.
On a main roster. Mm-hmm. When you try to say, like, I'm making up for my outside the ring things that were never part of his in-ring on TV character. So that just can only kind of take you so far, especially for an audience that for the most part is not going to probably know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he comes back, is that enough? Especially if you're not apparently bringing them back as Enzo and Big Cass, which is a gimmick in of itself that can just get over in front of a new crowd. I don't know if Big Cass in his personal past on his own will. So I'm cautiously optimistic right now. But I just worry that he comes back, makes a splash. 1 month later, he's not on TV.
Yeah.
We've seen that happen a lot.
I mean, I cannot imagine WWE on screen going into alcoholism and addiction and, hitting rock bottom in that way and explaining how he had to climb out of a ditch and so on and so forth. I also do wonder, because Enzo Amore is supposedly working in the WWE Performance Center right now, I wonder if they almost bring Cass back first and then bring Enzo along afterward, because Cass, in reality and interviews, has credited Enzo with being a rock for him during this extremely tough time in his life. So I think a lot of people heard, hey, Big Cass and Enzo Amore might come back to WWE. And they just made the assumption, it's going to be the Italian music, SAWFT, soft, and the whole 9 yards. But you could also bring them back in just a different format where Cass is the big guy who's the featured wrestler, and Enzo's his manager and best friend who has his back and joins him in the ring when necessary for tag team matches. And they're a serious team, but Enzo cuts promos for him and Cass can speak as well. Pretty damn solid. So, so I think they can do Cass and Enzo, but it is smart that they're bringing Cass back first because A, he's the featured player with a much higher ceiling. And no matter what they do with Enzo, unless they are going full comedy tag team again. And when I say comedy tag team, I know they are serious and can win matches, even though they never, I want to say, won a title in WWE.
They won. I'm pretty sure they won the tag titles like once.
I'm forgetting.
I'll look it up while you're talking.
Yeah. But even though, they had a modicum of success, they were certainly not an established, heavily successful tag team in terms of championships and accomplishments. The one direction is to go with that version of them. Another is you can still do Enzo and Cass, but just a different version of Enzo and Cass. I don't know what they're going to be doing. All I know is they've done 2 vignettes on TV. Each one was better than the one before it, and both of them were solid. And now here we are, probably less than 2 weeks out from Cass returning to WWE.
They never won any tag team championship.
That's what I thought. Told you.
In NXT or main roster. Crazy.
Yeah. Because it was too short on the main roster. They broke him up too quick. Vince wanted Cass on his own because he was a big dude. Enzo went to the Cruiserweight division. He won the Cruiserweight championship while over there. And yeah, Cass never really got anything. So that is the situation. That also wraps up the good, the bad, and the ugly for this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. I was going to go over the entire WWE SummerSlam card as it stands, but we basically did that last week, and they've only really added like 1.5 matches. So we'll just, put a pin in that. Maybe we'll discuss it Thursday. As I mentioned earlier, Vintage and the Silver King, we're going to do whatever we can to watch the entirety of WWE Unreal. And if we are able to accomplish that before we tape the show on Thursday, we'll give you a review in the opening segment on that show. Also on Thursday, we're going to talk NXT, and there's going to be an AEW Redemption Ultimate preview. I really cannot believe they're doing another pay-per-view before All In, but that is what we will be doing on Thursday. Next week, in this exact same spot on Tuesday, we will have your WWE SummerSlam 2026 Ultimate preview. We did split those up for WrestleMania. We did 2 separate episodes for night 1, night 2. As of right now, the card is not long or involved enough for us to, have the necessity to do it. But we'll see what happens coming out of SmackDown. We'll see what happens coming out of Raw. If the card is deep and detailed enough, perhaps we do split it up over 2 episodes next week. A little bit TBD, but next week is SummerSlam week, so that does mean on Saturday and Sunday night, you will have instant analysis podcasts. And between now and then, of course, over the weekend at some point, you will have an AEW Redemption instant analysis as well. That does wrap up this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. On the way out, please remember to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show on YouTube. You can listen to the show. You can watch full-length video interviews. And please do not forget,
It's all about Defy.
Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Thanks, everyone, for listening to this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. For Vintage Chris Manini, this is the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.